Alrighty.
What's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in once again to the Unofficial Therapy Podcast. This is Chris Kane. I got my girl, Dr. Jess, on the bill. What's up, Doc?
Hey.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Is this your first podcast?
Yes, it is.
Oh boy, like I wish I had music to do like a cherry pop thing, but
Oh, yeah.
like, just like do something like that. You're gonna do fine. Jess and I go way back to Miami, and why don't you start by telling people what your field of study is so people can kind of know what you're about.
So I studied developmental psychology, where I worked with mostly kids and adolescents with anxiety and depression. And now I work with a variety of individuals, including kids, adolescents, parents, families, couples. So I really kind of my field of study went from just kids to just more than that,
So you basically do it all. You got it. You basically mentioned every type of person. You said kids, teenagers, parents, adults, geriatrics. It's like
I mean, basically, I'm more comfortable seeing like adolescents, but yeah, I see whoever wants to be seen by me.
I'm sure. Listen, what your field of study is such a pertinent thing nowadays because I don't know what the numbers are. This you can speak to this. I know there's been a boom and anxiety and medications and depression, self-esteem stuff. It's really kind of, I think it coincides with social media. But again, I haven't done the research. So maybe give me a little bit of background on what do you
Actually,
think?
since 2019, sorry to cut you off. I'm
You're
just
fine.
very eager to answer this question,
It's all
obviously.
good. Get in there. Get in there.
Since 2019, anxiety and depression has tripled. So
Oh, wow.
that's a lot. That's a lot.
Oh, wow.
I think that maybe because I don't know if it's because people are more aware of the symptoms of anxiety and depression, and that's why, there's more need, there's more need for therapists,
Sure.
or because they know that these are the symptoms they have and they want the help. But there's definitely been a big boom of anxiety and depression, and that's what I can speak of. Medication, possibly, I don't know.
That's crazy. Like,
Yeah.
so what do you think is the cause of it in your opinion? I'm sure you have a theory on why it's, because it's one thing for it to go up 5%. For it to go up triple is like unprecedented, I'm guessing. So what do you think is
Yeah,
going
I
on?
mean, this is since 2019, so it could be the pandemic that's created a lot of stress, anxiety, fear of the unknown or the
Sure.
future. Um, could be the pandemic, could be people are, like I said, are more knowledgeable on the symptoms of anxiety and depression, and so they're able to label what their thing is. Back in the day, I mean, not 3 or 4 years ago, I'm talking like 20, 25 years ago, there was, you didn't, it's not like you had a kid that was like, what if, the thunderstorm, falls on our house.
Mm.
The parent didn't label that anxiety and depression. They were just like, wow, my kid is a little crazy, And now a parent is able to say, my kid has anxiety. They need to go see, a specialist to help with that.
So this is something I've always kind of wondered, and you can kind of speak to it. What's the difference between daily concerns and anxiety? Because I'm sure like we're people, so our body has stress responses like built into it, right? So we react a certain way, capillaries like expand and that kind of stuff. So what's the difference between, all right, I'm a little bit, and the medical version of anxiety for people who don't know?
So this is what we actually look at. Most people, okay, let me rephrase that. It's a very pervasive way of thinking. If you're
Mm,
anxious, you'll know. You're thinking anxious thoughts daily, hourly, minutely even. But the four things that we look at is interference. Does it interfere with your life? So if you're anxious
okay.
about a certain thing, does it interfere with your friends socially? For example, you're anxious about, um, let's say, oh, my dog just popped up there.
I
Sorry.
see. No, it's all good.
If you're anxious about social situations, then you might not go out as often as you'd like.
Got it.
Or so we look at social, we look at, does it interfere with family? Okay, so if, let's say, your mom and dad are telling you, go out, and you're not, and then you get into a fight with them, that's interfering with the family. We look at if it's interfering with school or work. So if you're an adult, obviously work. And if you're a student, school. Do you miss a lot of school? Do you miss a lot of work? Do you arrive late because of your anxiety?
Right.
And then the last interference that we look at is, does it interfere with the self, with your own self? Like, do you know that you have these pervasive thoughts and you just wish like, oh my gosh, why can't I stop thinking this way? And those are the four things that we look at. And if it's pervasive in most categories, I would say, even it honestly doesn't have to be pervasive in all four categories. If it's enough in one category, then it's enough to treat.
Jeez. Like just hearing you talk was like, it was just so heavy. So I don't think I fall into the category. So this is me on the outside trying to, I guess, sympathize and empathize with people who go through this and trying to differentiate between let's say you have a final exam, right? Big situation, it's half your grade. You're like, oh man, this is half my grade. It's going to take a certain amount of energy out of you. And so I understand the being like, if I don't pass this test, things are going to go crazy. But if that bleeds into everything else, that's when it goes from situational to now a full-blown like anxiety type thing, as opposed to a situational anxious moment, which I guess would be normal, right?
It would actually not just be normal, but it's actually helpful. If you're anxious about a test, you're going to study more. So anxiety, people think it's not a good thing. Anxiety can be a great thing. Anxiety is what's going to get you the promotion. Anxiety is what's going to get you to work harder at something. So anxiety is good. Pervasive anxiety is not good.
Gotcha.
And interfering anxiety is not good.
So other than this being a super hot topic and being something that I'm sure career-wise you can have a pretty good living doing, what is it that led you to this particular field and not general psychology or, like anything, like obviously just unlimited field. So what led you to this one?
So initially I changed my major a lot. When I was in school, I wanted to be a pediatrician, an architect, a business major. I remember the first year of undergrad, I called my dad and I said, please let me come work for you. He works for a chocolate company. I said, I love chocolate. Let me come and work for you. And he was like, absolutely not. You're staying in school. And that semester I took a psychology class and I fell in love with it and the professor. And, I think, to be honest, part of the reason why I went into it was kind of a selfish reason, which is why I think a lot of mental health therapists go into it. We kind of want to save ourselves and we end up wanting or saving, if we can, part of the world. So for me, I when I was younger, I struggled with anxiety and depression, and that was a big part of the reason why I wanted to help kids who had that same struggle. I know a lot what's going on, so it's easy to relate to them. It's easy to have empathy. It's easy to help them.
I gotcha. See, that's what I was thinking, but I'm happy you got to say it. I just
me already. I have anxiety.
Listen,
come on.
I know, but the people at home don't. So I gotta be like, so what's your life like? And I gotta tell me about your childhood. Was it anxious at all? I gotta be that reporter guy, so I don't be like, listen, I know this already. What group of people?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. What group of people do you find is easiest to? I can't say reform because I think this is something that is a constant thing because you can always kind of relapse in anxiousness, right? So of the groups you've worked with, who are the ones who are most receptive to therapy at this point?
I would say adolescents are the most fun to work with. I think that when I've seen kids as young as 5, and that's really difficult because you end up working with the parent mostly. A 5-year-old cannot cognitively understand the concepts behind anxiety, depression, all that stuff. But adolescents, usually, if they're coming into therapy, it's because they want to. It's because they're looking for something else. They're looking for true happiness. They're looking for, they're aware. And it's actually really interesting to see. A lot of adolescents will, they don't want that social media stuff. They know that that's not what happiness is. So I really enjoy working with adolescents and early adulthood, I would say, because they're really aware of what they want, the goals that they have in treatment, in therapy.
Gotcha. What's weird is not weird. We're in a time now because we're approximately the same age, but we're in a time now where having a therapist and going to therapy is a lot more, well, it's better received. I remember being 13, 14 and having thoughts and wanting an outlet. And the thought was, just pray about it. You got it. Or you'll grow out of it. And so it's been dismissed. And then you grow up and yeah, maybe some things you learn more about, maybe some things you just repress and it comes back up later on. But the kids now are in the age where they have as much technology available to them as ever, as much stimuli, and I guess now as much anxiety. And it's a very mixed like cocktail of stuff going on. So that wasn't really a question. It's more like a commentary. I was just thinking.
Good comment. Thank you.
I was thinking out loud. I was like, wasn't a question at all. Because it was more like trying to look at it from a macro perspective. The fact that you exist and you have an audience shows that there's a need and want for it. So there's something about that, and that's awesome.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. I think when I didn't see it. My first therapist was when I was 18 years old, I think. Because it was taboo, because I couldn't go up to my parents, they would have thought that they failed as parents.
Right.
If a child comes to you and says, Mom, Dad, I want to go see a therapist, the initial response of a parent is, well, you can talk to me, I'm here. Well, no, I can't. I'm going through all these things and you're going to make it about yourself. So let me, go to a professional. And so that's really why a lot of parents are more accepting to bringing their kid to therapy.
That's awesome. So we're going to give you an opportunity to delve into yourself a little bit. We're like 10 minutes in. You should be a little lathered up. You don't have to go here if you want to, but you said you've gone through some of this, so it allows you to empathize better. What's, other than, I guess, maybe the childhood anxiety stuff, what's something that you've had as an issue, gone to therapy, and feel you've come on the other side of, that you can use as a testament to talk to the people that you, not therapy, people that you are a therapist to? I can't find the right phrase for that.
So like I said, earlier, I've struggled with both anxiety and depression. I'm not going to lie and sit here and say I don't struggle with anxiety anymore. Because like I said, anxiety pops up in every aspect of your life, but something I do feel like I've really succeeded at is depression. And I think that it was very hard for me. I remember being 15 years old and actually considering taking my own life. And if my parents hear this, please forgive me, but it's true, and I really overcame that. And I think I overcame that with accepting myself and loving myself. And I think that's a big reason, I hope that it gives hope to people that depression doesn't have to mean the end. It can mean the beginning of something new. It can mean rebuilding yourself, making starting yourself up from scratch. So I hope that gives a little bit of hope to people, whoever's listening. I know you have a big fan base.
Listen, we're very popular. we're like 12 cities. I'm not going to brag. I think I mentioned this on the pod before, maybe some time ago, but I think mine was a little bit earlier than yours. When I was 13 to 14, I had my depressive state, because I think it was a prolonged period of time, because I was kind of figuring out when is sadness, depression, just like when is anxiousness, anxiety. I had that like kind of conundrum. And I was, I think 13 or 14. And I remember just not wanting to be around people. I remember going home and going to my room and just closing the door. I still have my journal from when I was like 14. Oh, it's a rough one, like it's but luckily I had a writing outlet because I was like writing then. I just had to get it out because I didn't have anyone to talk to. When you go through and read some of the stuff I was writing, I was like, boy, that was a dark time. And I never got to the point of trying to execute taking myself out, but I definitely wrote at some point, what does it all mean? What is it all worth? What's my purpose here, basically? And I know what my trigger was now because I'm older or whatever, but at the time I attached my self-worth to my intelligence, which is at 13, 14 is school, because I don't have a job. Not a job I get paid for. I did a lot of yard work for no money. That's neither here nor there. Anywho, but I remember like I moved from one city to another, and my grades dropped like almost 2 full points. So from like a 3.8 to like a sub 2 in like a year. And I had been like, on the road my whole life, and then it dropped. And I remember being like, well, I had glasses, I was small, I hadn't started playing football yet. Definitely wasn't getting no girls. It's like, hi, do you play the tuba? Yeah. So yeah, I played the tuba too. So like I had all that stuff going, and then my grades dropped. I always had to fall back on it. Well, I'm smart, so I'm good. They don't get it. The smart guys are in later in life. And then like when the grades dropped, then I was like, listen, I already wasn't getting girls. I'm still small. My glasses are broken. Tuba sucks. Let's just be honest. And now I don't have my identity, which is the intellect part. And I remember being in this like really like bad state where like my dad's a truck driver, so he'll be like on the road and stuff. He'll come home, hey, how was school? And he's been driving for 10 hours. I'm sure he just wants to like sleep. Like it's tiring driving. And what it took was they said you may not graduate middle school, or you might get held back. Whatever. This is Florida, so who knows? One
Right.
1.0, let's send you on. They tell my dad basically, hey, if your kid has one more semester like he just had, we might have to consider holding him back. And then my dad got nervous. My dad's not a nervous person at all. He's pretty like aloof. He's from the islands and stuff. He doesn't really care. And when they said that, he got concerned because he was like, I've only known you to be a smart kid, and now they're telling me that you might not make it. And he's on the road, so then he felt responsible because he wasn't there. So then he was like, well, I got to be home more often, but if he's home, then he's not working. So now we're not making as much money. And it was the fact that my state was taken away from the household's money, and that he felt responsible, even though it wasn't his fault, that sparked something in me. I was like, wait a minute. I don't want him working less because he has to worry about me. Like my whole identity is that I can take care of him. I'm pretty self-sufficient. And we had a whole powwow where he was like, you need therapists, and not like you therapists, like tutors and that kind of stuff. And I'll say, you're working less, and now you want to spend money on a tutor. So that's even less money. That's less, which is not a double negative positive. It's just less money, right? And so I was like, listen, I can do this, but I need you to like give me a chance to handle it. Like, give me a chance to make it right. And he was like, I'm not going to have you, fall off. You're my kid, yada, yada. And I was just like, listen, if you don't trust me to make this work, then you're going to lose me a different way. This is a deep conversation for like a 14-year-old to like a 35-year-old man. Like it was a real, like, I was like, you need me to like, let me do this. I can do this. I've been in the funk basically. And he's like, all right, whatever. He let me do it. The last semester I got like mostly B's, like 1C. And then it just turned. And I never had a grade issue again. Like I graduated high school and college with honors. Everything else was fine. It's just in that moment for that year and a half, I was as low as it was. And I had to really detach from school equals me. Right? That was a big deal. Then once I got to high school, I started playing football and made other friends. Then like other things started coming in, and it just kind of like leveled it all out. And like if I bring it up with him now, he'll be like, "Oh yeah, I remember that." Like it was not even like a thing. We don't ever talk about it. It hasn't come up again. He still drives trucks. He's still living his life. But I remember that conversation, and I remember how bad I felt that he had to sacrifice even more of his life because he's on the road to provide. Now he's like, I was like, he's already sacrificing too much.
Right.
Because I can't get my shit together.
Therapist on you?
Sure.
It's possible that him willing to sacrifice his livelihood really for you gave you enough confidence in yourself, because your dad was giving confidence to kind of, I can do this. And really what he did was amazing. Like he was willing to sacrifice himself for your benefit. And I think you saw that. And as it sounds like you were a pretty insightful kid, and you saw that and you were like, no, I can do this. Like if my dad believes in me, I believe in me,
Yeah, I think you're right, Doc.
That'll be $150.
You take cash? No. No, I think that's that's what it came down to. 'Cause I remember like being really like I've always been very reflective. That's why I started writing when I was going through stuff. Like no one told me to write. That's where my natural impulse was to do, because I couldn't talk it through, and I knew having it in my head wasn't right. So it's
Right.
like me just regurgitating my own thoughts is just like it hitting the same walls. Like you can't get better in the place that broke you, basically. And my head is the place that things are going crazy, so I had to get it out. So
Good for you. That's great.
this is listen, I was home alone a lot, so it's like I got to figure it out. And you're right. Like when we had that conversation, it was like I had to find my own confidence. I think him willing to do what he was willing to do, like that was a big deal on his end. I think he also was at his wit's end. He didn't know what to do. Like
Mhm.
my dad was never like a scholar, so he wasn't like, let me sit with you and do the homework with you and that kind of like he wasn't that type. He's
Right.
a let me provide when I can provide, and that's how my granddad was. That's what he knows. So he was just
Hmm.
like, what I need to do? I need to throw some money at something. How can I get this through? Because he wasn't the type to like. We never had to talk about why I was depressed, because that's not what he is. But he
Hmm.
was like, how can I help you academically, which I think in turn will help you get past this. That's
Hmm.
kind of the avenue we end up going. And you're right. That was a rough conversation, man. I did not sleep that night. I was just like, this is really determination to get out
Good
of
for
that.
him. Good for you. You know, that's great.
It was a lot. It changed our relationship um, for a time. Like it was interesting. I'll say that. Like it was uneasy around the house.
Mm.
Because I was always a studious kid, even when I was getting bad grades. Like I would still go home and do my homework. I wasn't like not doing the work. I just wasn't in it.
In
So
it, yeah. You
so I
weren't.
wasn't a kid that came home and went right outside and was like, yeah, I'll do homework tomorrow. Like I was still doing the process, but it was just like, come home, oh, another D. It's like put
Right.
that on the fridge, and it was interesting. And then everything,
Look
the
at you now.
I know, right? I'm doing a podcast. Uh, everything just kind of opened up, and there's a girl in the story too, actually. But
Oh, okay. You want to talk about that?
well, how much do I owe you?
This one's on me.
um, this was so I told you I was playing a tuba and not catching attention from women, and nor should they really. I was a depressed, glasses wearing tuba kid at the time. Like I wasn't outwardly given a lot to feel from. It's like, you know what you want? A 4'6" glasses wearing tuba player. Mm,
So
beat your
all
heart
the
out.
4'6" tuba playing people out there, you are loved.
You're
Just
loved.
side note.
Well, I'm gonna get to that point. Yeah, let me
Oh,
tell the
okay.
story.
I'm sorry,
See, listen, Miss Therapist, you getting out of pocket. You're getting too you're getting too
go.
comfortable in the pot. And so what happens, I started pushing people away from me because I didn't think they wanted me to be near them. So I was like preemptively cutting people off. You know, hey Chris, and I was just like kind of doing that whole thing, right? And there was a girl who I guess was attempting to get to know me. Like she saw me, maybe she liked glasses. I don't know. I don't know what her deal was. And I remember, I guess I just repelled her a handful of times. I don't even remember this happening. This is her account of what happened. And we eventually had a conversation where she was saying, "No, you can't have any." And that's my roommate.
I was like, who is he talking to?
I knew he was going to ask me. I just had to cut it off. Um, and so basically, she saw me one day. I think I was sitting alone, being that kid or whatever. And she was like, "Hey," and I was like, "Hey," not making eye contact, being as awkward as I could possibly be. And she was like, "You don't have to be like that." And I was like what? She's like, "You don't have to like push everybody away, like." And I was like, "No, I'm not doing that. It's just, I'm chilling, me." And I was trying to be, I was defensive and all that stuff. And she's like, I mean, I've tried to like, I've waved at you in the halls before, and you just walked past me. Like we had a class together, and like she was chronicling all the times that there was an attempted olive branch, and I was just apparently just just chopping them in half.
Yeah.
I don't remember this because I guess I was in a funk, whatever. And she was like, I've tried to get to know you, but you won't even let me in. So, you can sit here alone if you like, but you don't have to be. But if you push people away, you will be alone. And that, like, because she didn't know me, she wasn't like a friend of mine. So this was just an outside person who's just been observing me. And when that was said to me, I had to kind of like pull back the Rolodex and be like, how many times has people like invited me to stuff? Hey, we're about to go play kickball. We need one more. Nah, I'm cool. Hey, you want to be in our group project? Nah, I'm straight. And I was just pushing everybody away. And I was like, damn, maybe people were trying to like bring me into the fold. And I was just like shutting it down because I didn't feel worthy on some level. So you couple that with the dad thing, and it was like, you know, she might be right. And I don't want him to have to go through this suffering on my account. And then like those were like the pushing forces for her. And she was right. Like I wish I could argue with her, but she was right. I was actively trying to push people away. It was like it was a game. How many people can I say no to today? Like it was
But you were doing it on a subconscious level like before you even knew about it.
Yeah. It was just like I thought I was better alone. And there's times like when I'm being creative, sometimes you do need to be, because you can't have distractions. You got to be in your own space. This is more. I don't think I don't have anything to bring to another person, because my worth again at the time was grade related. So if I got D's in this class and the girl's like, "Hey Chris," and we're in the same class, she got a B and I got a D, what am I going to bring you? Like I'm gonna lower your GPA. It's like that's not worthy. And it's like I was always a funny kid, but I wasn't funny during this depressive time or whatever. So I had lost the funny gene, and then I had lost it's like where'd it go?
Lost the grades, the funny.
I found it funny. It was under the couch. I don't know how I got under there, but it was like, you get down there. So I found it funny eventually, but it was just like I didn't think I had anything to offer. So let me push people away so they don't know that I don't have anything to offer. Because if I think it and they don't know, they're like, oh, maybe the guy's interesting. Maybe he's being mysterious. Right. It wasn't mysterious. And then she said that and he did that. And it was like literally the lights kind of went on. Came to school happier. People like, yo, man, you're in a better mood now. Oh, yeah, man. I was, hurt my ankle. Just making up lies and stuff. And people were like, oh, man, you're actually fun to be around for the rest of that semester. Like, found it funny. Started making jokes. Started raising my hand again in class because I knew the answers and stuff. And literally, it was just like a 180 from like a Thursday to a Monday. It wasn't a long process. It was legit like a switch.
Good. That's amazing. You created your own reality by changing your perception. Essentially, that's what you did. So
I like how you just therapist that like in like a nutshell.
Sorry. Or you're welcome.
No, it's not a sorry thing. That's why I want you here. That's awesome. Because you took a 7-minute story and made it 7 seconds. It's like, let me tell you what you're going through right now. All right. It's like, where were you when I was 13?
Well, probably 13, feeling the same way you were.
Right. So
we could have been best buds.
I know. We would have sat next to each other and then not looked at each other. Hi.
No, I had friends. My struggle was internal, not external.
Oh,
just saying.
I'm sorry. We can't all be as cool as you. Some of us had to eat lunch alone. But the whole point is that's, I think, through a long thread that's led to what this podcast is. And I've mentioned this so that the listeners who've been following me, the millions of listeners we have on this podcast.
Right.
So many people. It's just like I can't even count them. They understand like a big part of this was over time you start meeting people like you and you start assimilating knowledge and you kind of make your own worldview is contextualized based on what you see. And it's anecdotal and all that good stuff. But at a certain point, I got to a point where I was good at helping people in personal situations. But just like your experience and my experience, like you were on different parts. Like, where were you at 13? Were you in the States or were you overseas?
No, I was in the States, yeah.
Okay. So but we're from two different worlds. We don't look the same, genders, whatever. And we're going through similar stuff. So if I saw you in real life, which we got to meet, which is cool, we could have this conversation. But you might be friends with someone who listens to this podcast and they can hear the pod and then they can relate. Like, you don't know the ripple effect of what you do and what you say. And that's kind of what the pod was growing out of, where it's like,
I agree.
I don't want to meet with 7 people in a day. I know that's like your life, but like, I didn't want that. I wanted to maybe do like a Tommy gun type approach where I hit a lot of people and then let the ripples do what they do. And I never know how these pods hit people until people let me know that, yo, man, that was cool. Or maybe they just hear it and start changing. I don't know. I know it's hitting some desired audience, and I know there's some satisfaction, just like me being a comic. When I tell a joke and you remember the joke and you drive home laughing at the joke because it stays with you, that's fulfilling. Right. Just like doing a pod is fulfilling, just like, you know, making someone a nice meal. And they're like, oh my God, you made this? You're like, it's not a big deal. It's from scratch, but I don't want to talk about it too much, you know?
Right. Absolutely. I definitely think you're right. And it comes from a good place. You know, your heart's in the right place when you're doing these things. So.
Well, definitely doing it for money, you know? So, so tell me, how was your experience and what you do affected you as a parent? Like, how are you parenting differently than I guess your parents parented you?
Wait, that was two different questions in one.
It was a good question, but it's so deep. All right, let's back up. How was your practice affected how you parent? Let's start there, and then we'll ask the second question.
So I have been a parent for only about 4 years, and I've been working with parents for about 12 years, 10 years, I would say. And I definitely think that when you get to be a parent, things change. You know, it's not as easy as telling a parent that's in front of you, you know, you have to set firm boundaries and you have to communicate with your child. And, you know, and now that I'm a parent, I see it. It's a little bit harder than that. And so I can bring my own experiences as a mom to my clients and say, I know that there's going to be some setbacks. I know that it's going to be difficult. Let's talk about these setbacks. Let's talk about where you're going to come to a roadblock and say, I can't do this. Just have the TV or just do whatever you want. I don't care. And let's try to come up with solutions, because now that I'm a parent, I know that it's not step 1, 2, 3, and that's it. There are going to be setbacks and your child will challenge you. And you just have to be aware of those setbacks before you go into it. So that when you're there, when you're present, you're able to, you know, manage the situation.
Okay. Very concise. Now, second question. How are you parenting your kids compared to how your parents parented you? Like, are you a carbon copy, or are you enlightened because of all your schoolwork and now you're like, I know better?
To be honest with you, I think now, you know, as a child, you go through, you know, my parents are this and my parents are that. And I think that because now I'm a parent, and maybe because of my practice, I honestly am like, how did my parents do such a good job? And that's not just to say that I'm cool and like my sisters are cool. They really did a really, really good job. And I still go to them for advice. You know, I still call my mom and dad and say, how did you do this? Like, my daughter's doing this. How did you know, because they've lived it. And I think it's easy to sit in front of a client and say, you have to do this. But once you live it, it's just the same way that I can help, you know, kids that are anxious and depressed, because I've lived it. The same way that, you know, I worked for a drug and alcohol rehab center at one point, and a lot of the clients would ask me, you know, have you been through this? And I had nothing to say because I haven't. And so they thought that I couldn't help. And I'm not saying that you have to go through rehab to be a good drug abuse counselor, but, you know, once you're in it, it's just a little bit easier to be empathetic to the client, to the person sitting in front of you.
Yeah. I'm not where you are. You're already like this advanced person, but I'm looking forward to when I have kids, because my parents are polar opposite people. The thing is, I don't know their parenting styles. Like, now I'm thinking about it, I can't even think what their quote unquote style is, but I'm wondering how I'm going to see them in the light of having a kid. Because at this point, I'm good with both my parents. I know they're very different. They're good at some things, not good at some things, whatever. But I only have the prism of my life, right? So I don't have this secondary experience of, let's say I have a smaller version of myself, some small Chris running around creating chaos. Because my dad said when I was young, I used to run around all the time, like just they just couldn't watch me. Like if you turn for a second, I'm halfway across the store. Fast kid. I eventually did track and football. I think he knew what it was early. He's like, where is he? I'm just like, just gone. Like no purpose, gone. But he was always like, that was funny to him. He's like, he's fast. My mom was like, she had other kids right at the time. So she was just like, hey,
Stop that.
chill out. Like, I can't hold your sister and chase after you. So it's like how the feedback goes is like kind of a different thing. But I think that's awesome that you have such a good relationship with your folks that you can still go to them and not like you feel like you can reinvent the wheel and show them all this progressive parenting that I'm sure is trendy on the blogs and stuff. I don't go on them because they don't accept single people. It's like, hey guys, here's some future questions. It's like, get out. Like, all right, fair enough. Has nothing to do with me. What is it? This is a kind of an odd question. Maybe it's too broad. What is it you want your impact to be long-term in the lives of the people you counsel? Like, do you want this to be an ongoing thing for 10, 20, 30 years? Do you want them to get the lessons and just apply them? Like, what is it that?
Yeah, I definitely not. I think that therapy should be effective and short-term. I don't think that therapy should be long-term. Some people do use it as long-term. Maybe if they're older and they need like a social connection with others. And so they use their weekly therapy appointments as a connection, to connect with another human being.
Sure.
But if the client knows what they want and if the client is insightful, okay, because that's really important. And if the therapist is good at their job, which I am, then, therapy.
Humble brag.
Then therapy should be short-term. It really should. Again, it depends on the presenting problems, obviously. If it's just phobia of a dog, after 12 sessions, you should be out of there. But if it's like depression and, if it's rewiring your thoughts, because a lot of depression is thought-based, right. That's going to take a little bit longer. And what I tell my patients is, depression, anxiety, it's usually a lifelong difficulty. That doesn't mean it has to be a disorder or a diagnosis, but it's going to pop up from time to time. So even if you retrain your brain to think I'm worthy of love, I am great, I am strong, you're still going to have these moments where you feel weak and you feel unworthy. And you're going to have to use, the tools that we teach in therapy to kind of squash that down. So no, it doesn't have to be lifelong.
Okay. So there are a lot of people who can't afford you or who don't know you and don't live in your area. And they may want some of your wisdoms, let's say that, some of your idioms or whatever. What are some small, I don't know, checklist type things that you can impart on people that they can use to keep thoughts in check, actions to take if they feel they're in a depressive moment, like to like in an immediate snuff it out for people?
First, I want to say I work for a nonprofit organization. So I believe that everybody should be able to get mental health services because it's so important. Like it can change your life. And it shouldn't be about money or anything, so you should be able to go to a community center or a nonprofit organization and be able to get the help that you need. I know a lot of nonprofit organizations have grants available to help people so they can be seen for a small fee. And I really believe in that because I don't think that, back in the day, therapy was for rich people that had nothing to do but talk about their lives. And that's really not it. A lot of people are struggling with mental health issues and it should not be about the money. So just as a side note.
No, that's a big note. That's big side note.
Some tips. Self-love and self-care is so important. It's something I talk about with my clients all the time. You need to make time for yourself. Whether that means, working out, listening to music, baking, cooking, running, talking to somebody on the phone, taking a bath, whatever that means, it's your moment to be with yourself. So self-care is important because it leads to self-love, which is ideally the foundation of being, right? Of happiness.
Right.
Another thing I would say is setting boundaries, right? You have to be able, that's another part of self-love, but being able to set a boundary, which a lot of people with anxiety and or perfectionistic qualities have difficulties with, right? They want to be the yes man. They want to say yes to everything, you know? And I think being able to say, I can't do this, or saying no, it doesn't have to mean, you know, I'm a bad person. It can mean this is where I draw the line.
Right.
Self-love, boundary, and communication is another really important thing. Communication with other people. So that's assertive communication, and communication with yourself. And that's your self-talk, you know, your thoughts. The things that you're unconsciously telling yourself that are really, really, really impacting the way that you live your life. So those are the three things I would say. There's more, obviously, but those are the three things I would say.
Of course there is.
That, you know, and again, it depends on the person, you know, and the presenting condition. So
it's a lot. You said something that reminded me of this book called Boundaries, and I guess off air talk to you about it.
okay.
But do you have, like, for your own life, do you have a daily quote unquote checklist that you do to keep your, I guess, anxiety kind of at bay? Since you beat depression, you stepped on this face and you move forward, but anxiety sometimes sneaks around the corner and attacks you. What do you do daily to try to keep that regulated?
I mean, I think it's different what I did before COVID and what I do now. I'm definitely, as you probably know, type A personality. So I have a hard time setting boundaries. I really do. You know, I excuse me, I like to take on as many clients as possible. And I like to do everything in one day, and there's just not enough time. So sorry, I'm talking too much, Chris.
Listen, you were like, I don't even know if I want to do this. And then all of a sudden you're like, take a seat. I'm like, all right, fair enough. I'll lay down. It's like, let me get comfortable.
The couch is right here.
Yeah, but I don't live there. It's like I'm near a moon. You see I'm at a river. I don't know why you keep showing me.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So I work out, as you know. I love working out, and so I try to do that as much as I can, even if it means putting my kids in front of the TV for that 30 minutes, even though I know I shouldn't, but that's my self-care. And so that's where I'm drawing the line. Like, I'm going to put my kids in front of Peppa Pig so that I can do my workout. And that's one thing that I do. Did you ask me the things that I do? Is that?
I did. Yeah, you're fine. Listen, you're on the couch right now, so we're listening to you. It's like we can lay down if you want to.
Working out is definitely a big thing. And
okay.
I like to cook, bake. I like to listen to music. I like to spend time with my kids. So that's what I try to do. I can't do everything in one day. So I think lowering my expectations of being able to do it all is helping me to be content and be happy in the moment, given the situation, you know, given the circumstances.
What's up?
What do you do?
Well, here's the thing. I've arrived at a weird space in my life, and I'm saying weird because it's, you know, maybe it's hard to quantify. I don't have a lot of like hangups. Like, it's in terms of my day-to-day operations, I'm in a pretty solid mood at least 80% of the time. And that started with intentional action of trying to, like, you know, the fake it till you make it kind of situation. It's like, I'm going to project happiness, but at a certain point I was happy. I'm very reflective. I have affirmations. I'll actually read some of them.
Oh, great.
Yeah, we're gonna do this so people can know this is real. Where are you?
And by the way, these are things that you should be doing not when depression strikes. It should be way before, you know. It should be something that is in your This is daily.
Okay. So this is not like I'm having a sad day. Where are my affirmations? Like, I don't break in case of emergency. No.
Okay, good.
So the first one, there's 6. And the first is, I'm worthy of all the good life has to offer, and I deserve to be successful. Okay.
That's great.
I know. The second one is I'm surrounded by positive, supportive people who believe in me, which is true.
Mm-hmm.
The third is I'm committed to achieving success in every area of my life, which makes me feel good. By creating success for myself, I'm creating success and opportunities for others, which is probably the biggest one for me. That by obviously, I am releasing all limiting beliefs about my ability to succeed. Is that's a bar. I think that's how you drop the mic on that. And the last one is I can never fail, for everything that happens contributed to me being better. And so I either will read it like I read it to you, or I'll tell Siri to read, because I have this like in my notepad, and I'll say, Siri,
Mm.
read my affirmation note. And then she'll read them off so I can like be brushing my teeth. And she'll be like, I heard you. I am worthy of all the love that. So
That's great. I'm
isn't
going to
that,
use that. Thank you. That's awesome using Siri because a lot of times people forget. So yeah, read it while you're doing something.
that would be $125.
Okay. Or
Yeah,
then I guess you just owe me 25
that's
because
fine. You take PayPal.
yeah.
Okay, fair enough. So I do that, but over time, I'm very, I practice gratitude all the time. Even like on the post for the podcast, I usually put thankful and blessed just because that's what it is. Like
Mhm.
because I know where I was, and I know where a lot of people in my family are, and that's physically, mentally, financially, emotionally, whatever. I know where I am. Like if you knew like the entirety of my story and I guess my family lineage and all that stuff, for me to be where I am is like it's an anomaly in and of itself. So for me to be here is crazy. The fact that I get to live in LA, the fact that get to live the way I get to live, the fact I get to do what I do for a living as a trainer and help people there, the fact that I can talk to you and do pods and to get on stage and make people laugh and like live that out. Other than like, yeah, I don't have like the little daughter in a crib and like the wife in the room. Like I don't have those going right now, but I honestly wasn't even like emotionally ready up to this point. So it's not like I missed out on it. It wasn't for me at that time. So I don't
Mhm.
feel like I'm missing anything on that end. But I also know that there's room for me to grow as a person. And so that's exciting where it's like this year I've gotten way more fiscally responsible, which is like you're in your 30s, do better. But but it's like,
No, that's wonderful.
yeah, but it could have happened before. And this is more just like, and it's just a thing where other than like debt is simple. Money in, money out is a simple concept. Like don't spend more money than you have. You won't go into debt, right? If you want to like really reduce it down, but whatever. But where I am now, I believe you are where you're supposed to be at a given time,
Hmm.
right? Like I believe in that. When that may be biblical, that may just be what makes sense to me. So someone's like, man, I'm in this dead end job, and it's just at this moment you're realizing it's dead end. It took you being in that job for a certain period of time to realize what that is, and so now you're ready to make a change because it was a dead end job when you got it, but you just
Hmm.
didn't know it. And so now the wisdom of it makes you want to do something different, right? So this year, COVID and all this stuff has reinforced how I was already kind of moving a little bit. People ask me all the time, text, man, this is crazy. They just shut California down again today or
I
yesterday.
heard, yeah.
And people are like, oh man, the gym is closed. This sucks. And I was like, it's not that bad. We have mountains and we have beach and we have sand and we have hills and we can hike. We can go run on the beach. We can go swim. What if you lived in like Maine and they shut down? What are you going to do? Like go beat up some lobsters? Like it's like
Right.
we're in a really, yes, would it be better to have the gym? Sure. I mean, that's optimal. But your thought life is the one thing you can control above everything else. So if you see the situation as being worse than what it is, then it's going to be worse. And those thoughts proliferate and they multiply and it
Right.
spirals. Me trying to see the positive in the situation doesn't mean I don't recognize that there's some negatives to it. It just means that I'm not going to dwell on that. And okay, I can't train clients that way. Cool. What's another way to get it? And then you start, if you focus on problems, you have more problems. You focus on solutions, you right. So what's
Mhm.
the solution to the situation? And that's kind of how I move. So I'm generally in a good mood. I'm in good health. My beard looks good. So my daily thing is the affirmations and really being intentional daily to try to maintain the happiness and then being blessed in what I'm doing. I have on like my to-do list board to try to help someone every day. And that's an arbitrary thing. You can help somebody by holding the door for them. So technically it's not hard to do, but sometimes helping somebody can mean talking to a friend who's going through something and being on the phone for an hour when maybe you only want to be on the phone for 10 minutes. It's like, but they're really going through it. So you do that because they need that from you. Or it could be something more practical, like putting a podcast out and hoping that it hits the desired audience or what have you. So that there's ways to kind of go about it, but keep trying to do good for people. I'm always trying to big up and encourage other people. I make myself available when people need to talk stuff through. I'm thoughtful about what I say to myself and what I do daily. I have a to-do list every day. I wake up and that keeps me focused. Even if it's like 3 items, like do laundry. Oh, it's going to take at least 8 hours right there. It's like it could be a small list, but having a to-do list keeps you intentional. It makes you don't wake up and say, Saturday, let me just do nothing. I'm like, oh, I got to knock this list out. And so it keeps you motivated and moving. And so that's how I live my life. I'm really blessed. I gotta, and that's not trite or cliche to say. So I don't know. That's why I say I'm in a weird space, because when I tell you to people, I sound like that weird dude that's like, open your fourth eye, man. And I don't want to be that, but I do feel like my story can be helpful to people. Absolutely. And so I want to do that part.
And I think you're right. I think that, being grateful and showing gratitude is definitely a protective factor against, depressive thoughts and moods, if you will. So I definitely think, that's great that you're doing that.
It's hard to be depressed when you have some money in the bank, a working car, and people who you care about. Because ultimately, like I think you can reduce life down to a few small moments. We make it more complicated because, some people are avarice in their intentions and some people are whatever. But if you reduce it down to something, it's really, I don't know. Like, I think we overcomplicate a lot of simple stuff. The people say, how do you stay happy? It's like, I don't let the bad moments last as long as probably most people would. Do I get to say, yeah, of course. I'll watch a movie or a TV show and cry in a second. So, right. But I'll get feel that. I feel the feelings because feelings demand to be felt. And then you get what you get from it and you keep moving. It's not robotic. It's more just like, there's no use in having depressive thoughts that just keep persisting. Right. There's no value to it except that it just further erodes you. So you can keep dwelling on the negative, but it's like, what are you doing with that? Because I can tell you where positive thoughts get you. Avenues open up. People want to be around you. You want to be around you. Like, you become kind of a beacon for people. When you're a negative thought person, people don't want to be around you. People start making up excuses. People, like, it's just, you become a repellent. But then when you're in a depressed state, you kind of need people. But your energy is pushing people away. So it's this kind of oxymoronic dynamic. Or why won't anybody come talk to me? It's like, because you keep pushing away. And I've lived that life, so I know what that experience is. I wanted someone to reach out to me, but when you smack everybody's hands away, at some point they put their hands in their pocket. So
I definitely think for you, I don't know how you did it. The whole, like, I clicked myself out of it. I think it's more difficult for certain people.
Sure, yeah.
That, for some people, it's going to take time to restructure their thoughts, but yeah, everybody's different. So
listen, I don't want to say I'm giving you my life because we're being vulnerable, right? I honestly believe that I'm special. Everyone's special. Let's just get that, whatever. Let's get there. Everybody's special. Everybody knows something that somebody doesn't know. Everybody has something they're good at that other people aren't good at. So we can get the special thing out. I think just from the people I meet, from talk to, just maybe my makeup, maybe background, maybe something innate. I don't know what it is. I think I'm a special person in this world. Meaning, I think a bunch of other people will find special value in what I can contribute to them. That's what I mean. Everyone's special.
100%.
And I don't know. I think that's a gift. I think it's irresponsible to not use that gift well. So you said, how did you just hit the switch? That may be part of that kicking in at that moment, because I don't have an addictive personality. That's why I don't drink coffee. I don't, do drugs. I don't smoke. I can do something and then just be like, I'm not doing that anymore. And I can hit a switch on and off, and I don't have like relapsing type tendencies. But maybe that's the way for my brain to just keep moving forward, because it's trying to get somewhere and it can't be held back by relapsing. So maybe that's a device that was just kind of put in there. And it's not something that was, I don't think, taught to me. I think it's just a thing. So I think I have some special stuff. So I don't want people to say, oh, well, you're trivializing what I'm going through, because I'm not. I'm just going to tell you my experience. I know people who've been struggling with stuff for 20, 30 years, and they have a good month and then a really bad couple weeks. Then they have a good day, bad day. So I've seen it oscillate, and I've seen what the effects of that are. I just know how I'm made up. And I know when people meet me for more than like 2 minutes, they're generally having a good time, and they want to be around me more, and they want to invite me to do stuff. And this is famous people, like people you see in movies and TV. And then people at the grocery store who are like, yo, this dude is dope. You shop here often? Nope. It's like, but maybe it's like a magnetism kind of situation. I don't know what it is. It's not really my place to kind of name it. Maybe that's what it is. But I know it's there. And that's why I moved out here to do all this stuff, because I think there's something that the world needs to see that I have to offer. And that's why we have a podcast and all this other fun stuff we do.
I agree. I first met Chris. I don't know if I could say this, but I remember the first night at Equinox with Danny and Martin, and I was closing, and it was like the four of us, and it was so much fun. It was hilarious. I remember. So I concur that you are a special person.
Well, you can big me up all you want, but we're actually going to end the pod now. Where can people find you if they want to hear more information about not affordable therapy sounds like the wrong way to say it, the non-profit therapy and other resources and stuff, and also your personal page in case people have questions they want to bring to you?
Sure. So I'm on Instagram. My Instagram thing is, thank you.
I think it's handle.
Is the Dr. J-Way. I'm actually not quite sure, but I think it's the Dr. J-Way.
We should know what your name is. Okay.
The Dr. J-Way. So you should find me there, and then you can, pop in, ask me whatever you want.
And where can people find the resources if they want to pursue some therapy with the grants and the centers that do all that stuff?
I mean, it depends on where you are. You're in California, but I think that if you could Google community center, or there's federations. So if you Google that, mental health community center, there's a lot. There's a lot out there. We just have to find the right one in your, where you are in your area. So if you need any help with that, they can always reach out to me at the Dr. J-Way, and I'd be happy to help.
Cool. Well, guys, this has been awesome. Jess, you can stay on for a second after we finish this. Guys, thank you for tuning in. This has been deep. I feel like I owe you a lot of money, and I want to hug a teddy bear. So thank you guys for tuning in to the Unofficial Therapy Podcast. We'll see you guys next time.
Thank you. Bye.